And I always like to say the cream rises to the top. So by doing a bestsellers versus low performers or a testing campaign, whatever you want to call it, you keep the focus on what's converting well in the foreground. So you keep 80% of the budget on the best sellers campaign. That's giving you the return, that's giving you the conversion value, it's giving you the sales. In the background, just allocate a 20% budget, something like that, and just let the new winning products rise to the top. And then you can do one of two things: either transfer that product into the new best sellers campaign that you've got, or keep it in there and just build it up. It has that historic conversion data. Welcome back to another episode of the PPC Cave with me, Ryan Fenton, and my co-host G Villanos. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about standard shopping, all the features, all the benefits of what standard shopping has to offer in Google Ads. And we're going to go into why it's one of my favorite campaign types to run. And Gene, you're going to talk a bit about GMC, Google Merchant Center, and things like that. And we're just going to do a whole deep dive into standard shopping. But I think, last week we talked about Performance Max, and I feel like we really, explained a lot of the meat and the bones of shopping campaigns in the Performance Max episode. So I don't think this one's going to be as long as that one because we've already covered a lot of stuff. So I think, yeah, it'll be an interesting episode. We're going to touch on a lot of points, but for the most part, I feel like we've already covered a lot in the Performance Max episode. So if you've not watched that episode, I'd say kind of pause this one, go back and check that one first, probably, and then hit on to this one and work your way through. But I'm going to leave it there and let Gene take it away.
Yeah, and we'll go quickly with what we have as our points, but a lot of what we talk about is best practice, and we want to start providing a little bit more of like a different perspective, maybe the things that are a little bit missed when we talk about Google Shopping. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I have in my notes right now is 87% of shoppers surveyed by Think with Google, which is a reputable where you see all the insights and trends and stuff like that, is saying that knowing that they got a good deal, the shopper, is important to them when deciding which brand or retailer to buy from. And I think this is very fitting when we're talking about Google Shopping, because Google Shopping in general is the land of competition. When you see a Google Shopping tab, you click through it and you'll see all the sponsored, all the free product listings, and it's all right there. Price and product and title is basically all you get with Google Shopping. So you really have to make sure, do I look competitive with this particular search query compared to my other competitors? And Google Shopping is in the name, shopping. They're comparing. They're having comparisons with other tabs opened and researching. So I think understanding the nature of what Google Shopping brings is really important, that it is a side-by-side offering and there's numerous competitors there. So you asked Gene, how do we stand out? And me and Ryan always talk about this. It's really about showing out your reputation and credibility and your pricing and your speed of service or product. I think if you have all those three things embedded into the Google Shopping ad, I think you'll have a better chance of being clicked and then a better chance of getting a conversion. One of the biggest things, especially if you have a large catalog, is understanding the price competitiveness scoreboard and looking at the different benchmarks there. Are you competitive with the same type of product that someone else is selling? And if you're not, it really doesn't matter how good your copy is, because everyone's copy on shopping is the same. It's title, photo, and price. So that's literally all that you have. So really utilizing that as a tool within Google Merchant Center, you could see it on the left-hand side, would be, really beneficial for you, because why would you continue to attack unfavorable benchmarks where you have either Amazon or an established competitor selling the same exact thing for maybe 10, 15 euros, dollars, pounds less than you? How do you win that? You're not going to win that, So I think that's really important for us to understand first the nature of Google Shopping and how big a factor price is when it comes to Google Shopping. Ryan, before I move on, any thoughts on that?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head right there, man. I think it comes down to everything we always talk about. It's kind of like our mantra, and you coined it, so kudos to you. But speed of service, delivery, price, reputation, reviews, having those terms of conditions, privacy policy, returns, refunds, shipping, delivery, all that kind of stuff just makes you more credible when it comes to just putting yourself out there, presenting yourself. Even something as little as having an email address and a phone number on the website sets you apart. Because I think I was saying this to somebody else the other day. It's weird because there's so many drop shippers that don't have like an email address, that don't have a phone number, that don't have all these things listed on the website. And places like Shopify and a lot of those types of websites make it easier for you to implement like terms of conditions and privacy policy, refunds and returns and things like that. But just by getting the basics right, getting the basic fundamentals right, and having that on the website, and making sure that you're competitive on price, making sure that you're descriptive with the product titles, with high quality images of the products, not just like a product image itself, something maybe that's a little bit more lifestyle. All of these things, relate to your performance in shopping, I think.
Absolutely. And I agree with that, and moving on with the points, building on what Ryan just said, um, understanding the nature of what we're, up against with this particular campaign type is paramount. You have to understand this is a shopping ad. This isn't, search. You can't speak to anyone. You can't tell them your USPs, or you can't tell them, something that you do as a business. It's bare bones stripped down to your price and when you could ship, or even if you have free shipping. But what I always like to do for things like this, get on your Google Merchant Center and make sure that all the programs that you can be on, you're on, because if you have a product listing ad, and we talk about this in search, we like to be able to expand, your real estate on search. So therefore you create site links and different type of assets and photos and whatever it may be to really increase that real estate. How do you expand your product listing ad, just on shopping? Well, one thing is increasing your credibility. And if you don't have your product rating and your product reviews checked off on Google Merchant Center, where it could actually pull in your product rating, whatever you got, 5-star, 4-star on a particular product, well, you're kind of missing out on being able to stand out and have more credibility compared to the people that are advertising on shopping that don't have that. So I think that's really important. If you want to expand your product listing ad credibility, make sure you have your product ratings and reviews for your store through Google, not on Yotpo or whatever else review aggregator, on Google specifically. That's has to be done. And once you do that, you'll be able to expand your credibility on your product listing on shopping. Another thing that I like to tell customers is really get into your Google Merchant Center and try to look for, even like if you can provide some type of discount, or even like free shipping, or if you have like some promotional thing like a gift. All those are promotional aspects or marketing aspects in Google Merchant Center that translate specifically onto Google Shopping, and that can definitely expand your offering. If you see a Google Shopping website that has free shipping or a discount, usually it's like 5%, and then there's like a strike through, those things are all, shoppers, like they'll start to think that, oh, I'm getting a better deal. And they may not, but they don't have to know that, so not to say be dishonest, but this is just the mentality of the psychology of consumerism. I'm the same way. I could spend $500 on a pair of shoes, and if there's shipping, I might second guess buying the whole if there's $5.99 shipping, I might second guess buying the whole transaction. So really stand out is what I'm saying with what tools you're given on Google Merchant Center that could translate onto your Google Shopping, such as discount, free shipping, gifts, and also take advantage of the free Google Shopping listings. We're talking about expanding real estate. If you're up on the sponsor section and you're also high above, the fold with the free Google Shopping listings as well, you're really hitting on all cylinders and angles there. Yeah. So before I move on to GMC optimizations, Ryan, any thoughts on that segment?
Yeah, I think there's very little you can do in terms of adding assets to shopping campaigns, standard shopping campaigns specifically. And I think the way you can replace that is by making sure that you've got things like that free shipping or price drop. A lot of people don't know that if you've got a product at a price, say like, for example, £50, and then if you decide, I want to reduce this down to £45, then for a while, I think it's for 5, maybe 7 days, Google's going to show a little box on your product listing ad on shopping that says price drop, and it just stands out a little bit more if you've got that, as well as like free shipping. I think there's a few others that you can research, but it really just makes your ad stand out. And if you've got reviews as well, like Gene was talking about, if you're making sure that you've ticked reviews and you're pulling reviews in, they can really help boost clicks on your product listing app, because nobody else has got reviews. You've got reviews. You've got a price drop. You've got free shipping. All of a sudden, it's catching the eye of the user, so they're going to click on your products rather than everybody else's. So yeah, definitely build that out as much as possible when it comes to things like free shipping, price drop. I think there's others. I can't remember. Gene. I don't know. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but like for us, or for me at least, like those are the main ones, when you're looking at promos. And if you have that, then all the more will you be able to kind of stand out, like Ryan was mentioning, and absolutely provide a good experience, to someone shopping on Google. And that's all Google cares about, is they have all these tools like product ratings, reviews, even the price competitive scoreboard. Like they want you to drop price. They're like Amazon. They want you to drop price, so there's more transaction, and there's more clicks, and all of Google's money just keeps going round and round because of those things. But one thing Google does really well is make sure that the right person selling a particular product is shown in front of the person that wants to buy that product. But how do you outrank everyone else? Well, if you have these things that make you credible, product ratings, reviews, discounts, free shipping, those add-ons on the promotional end also help. So moving on towards Google Merchant Center optimization. I mean, Ryan just spoke briefly about this before our podcast, and we really want to provide more of an in-depth layer to this, and we'll do a separate episode next time, and show y'all what we can do on Google Merchant Center that's a little bit more detailed. But for now, if you're looking from a high level perspective, I just want to be clear. You can't have a good Google Shopping campaign without Google Merchant Center, and it's impossible. You literally can't do it. You can't be on Google Shopping if you don't fill out Google Merchant Center. So fill it out to the most that you can, because if you don't, there are going to be competitors that have that information. There will be competitors that took time to either create a supplemental feed or make sure that their content API on Shopify has all the details of gender, condition, color, and you don't, then guess who Google is going to show on Google Shopping, despite of budget, despite of anything, that they'll be shown on Google Shopping ahead of you. So that's something that I always ask clients, especially if we're doing not only Google Shopping, but now Performance Max, because Performance Max also utilizes Merchant Center. Do you have your GTINs or UPCs? That's huge, especially if you're arbitrage third-party seller. If you don't have that and you're selling, let's just say Adidas, James Harden basketball sneakers, and your competitor has the GTIN or UPC for that, well, they're going to get better traffic than you, because that is already ingrained in Google as, okay, this particular title goes with this particular GTIN/UPC. And that's been searched many a times. And, the click-through is high because of that specific GTIN UPC. So make sure that you have that. A lot of drop shippers out there don't have that. And that's really a disadvantage. That's something that you need to take a look at. Reach out to your suppliers. And I know it's a disgusting, long, spreadsheet that you have to go through, and you might have to do a couple of VLOOKUPs, but it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. Take time to input all those GTINs and UPCs. And I'm going through even your, MPNs, any manufacturer product number, anything that can utilize your specific product and in a sense where it could be standardized on Google Merchant Center side, which is through GTIN, UPCs, MPNs, have that in there, because like Ryan said, you don't have much to optimize Google Shopping. This is majority going to be on Google Merchant Center. So if you're not abiding by what Google Merchant Center wants to be filled out, then you're really shooting yourself in the foot by getting on Google Shopping. So make sure that you have those things, and even getting into product category and subcategory. I've seen so many clients that don't have this, or it's wrong for some reason, because if most of the time Shopify will pull in what they think. And if you're watching or listening to me on Spotify, what they think, I'm putting in air quotes, because I've seen clients that sell gun holsters, and they think that it's like a wallet or something, and that's the product category that Shopify thinks. So that gets pulled in. If you're doing content API, that gets pulled into your Google Merchant Center, which gets pulled into Google Shopping, and then now you're going to show up for wallets whenever you're selling holsters for guns. So that's something that needs to be done. Make sure that you go through the product category and get more granular with a subcategory. There's a whole list of them that you could find on Google's website. Next is your title. And this is something that I could ask Ryan about too. But for me, this is really important, because if you don't have the title right, well, then you're setting yourself up for failure, because this is the first thing that they see, or this is the first thing that they search, right? Is your title within the parameters of the 150 character Google shows? And the first 70, making sure that it's 150 characters is really important, because a lot of the times, it's a title that doesn't even really make sense, or it's a super generic title. You have to have your brand in there. That's another thing. Or, descriptive types of wording, like color, gender, have that in there. A lot of the times I see websites really going for the smooth, minimalistic perspective. But yes, maybe that works great for the user experience, but how does that work with the back end of Google, especially if you're using Google Shopping? Any thoughts on this segment, Ryan?
Yeah, I had to cough there. So many things that you picked up on that I think are valid. GTINs, just going back to that, I think needed but not necessary. I think if you have them, then great, because like Gene, as you mentioned, Google has all this information, all this data, and connects all the dots, because it sees that this advertiser has the same GTIN as this advertiser, and these are typically the type of searches that this GTIN, this product, gets. So Google has all this historic data when you punch in the GTIN number. So if you've got it, then great. If you don't have it, then it's not the end of the world. I have clients that haven't added a GTIN number, and we still get success. So it's great if you have it, and it gives you that extra advantage. And I've seen firsthand, actually, running the standard shopping campaign without GTINs and then putting GTINs in. And it's like, I think I said in the last episode as well, it's like turning the lights on. And it's like, oh, this is the product. And then Google kind of knows where to position it, who to show it to, because it has all that historical data. I think the product category that you were mentioning there is the Google taxonomy, I think it's called. So yeah. If anyone's watching and they're interested to kind of like, what's the word, like subsidize? I don't think that's the right word, but if they want to categorize the products, put it that way, just type Google taxonomy in the Google search engine, and then you'll see like a list of all the different like categories that Google has. It's pretty much a category for everything. I think every product. You'd be surprised. So yeah, and then it's just add that to your product data feed, either on the website, Shopify, for example, or you could do it directly in Google Merchant Center. And before we spoke on this podcast, I think we've agreed that we're going to do a Google Merchant Center episode, aren't we? And I think it'd be cool to do like a walkthrough, like we did with the search one. I think that could be really good for the viewers, and yeah, really good.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, and I think especially with what Ryan just mentioned, the GTINs and UPCs, yes. I'm more so speaking, if you have it and it's just laying around there and you haven't put it in, which a lot of times that's kind of how Google Ads works. Is like we know what we should be doing, but we don't do it because it takes an extra step where we think that our magical experience will get the ROAS up. With this, it's so standardized. With Google Shopping, it's so standardized that if you do have the GTINs and UPCs available, it would really benefit you. But yeah, if you don't, or if you're selling custom products or bundles, or you just don't have it, I know UPCs can get expensive sometimes too, purchasing them and assigning them, and you have to kind of standardize your whole process as well as a business, then don't worry about it. But if you have it, definitely input it. And also, I would just want to go back to title before I wrap up with availability. So I get a lot of drop shippers. I think Ryan still has some, but maybe doesn't like to work with them. But for me, a lot, but for me, I do have them, and I want to show drop shippers love. Okay, Ryan's not gonna show you love, but I'll show you love. I'll give you a tip. Okay, I work with a lot of drop shippers. The title is important, and the photo is important. All right. If you are a drop shipper and you are selling the same product and you just took the title and the product photo from your supplier and copy and pasted it on Google Merchant Center to show on Google Shopping, newsflash, you will show up with about 10 or 15 other drop shippers with the same title, the same product, and maybe even a cheaper price than you. So that's really important. What do you do at that point, right? I like to tell clients, okay, if you want to be on Google Shopping and you want to make it effective, you have to understand which titles are showing up on the same platform as other drop shippers. And you might have to change that a little bit. You might have to change the title a little bit so you're not showing up with that particular competitor next to you that's selling it for $40 less. Maybe he's just trying to liquidate, or maybe don't use the exact photo that everyone got from the supplier. Be a little different, use a different photo. So these are tips for my drop shippers out there, because I know I'm the only one that's going to give you love on this podcast. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's just a tip from my perspective. What have you seen with that, Ryan, where you copy and paste a particular search term and there's all the same, product with a cheaper price? Like what would you do at that point?
I don't really know. Put me on the spot there.
No, sorry.
I think I don't know. It's difficult. So you're saying that if you've got like a ton of other sellers on shopping that have cheaper prices than you, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and like it really happens more so with arbitrage, because I'm part of organizations that do arbitrage on the e-commerce side. So they're selling well-known brands, and you want that brand traffic because that brand traffic is going to get you high, purchase intent, and it's also going to be, an established long tail keyword. But then you get to the other side of it where, yeah, you've qualified the traffic. It is qualified traffic, but the people next to you are just undercutting you, on price. So that's just kind of the nature of the beast, I guess, with Google Shopping. You have to go up against other competitors, unfortunately.
It's game over, I think, at that point to a degree, because the only way I think that you can really compete in that position is if you are the main brand. Let's say that you are Nike, or how you like to say, Adidas.
Adidas.
Love it. Always makes me laugh. If you are those guys, then you can afford to keep your prices as they are because you are the main brand. And a lot of the times people will want to go directly to the main brand, to make a purchase, just for security, just because it could be like a bit of a show. Like, yeah, I went to Nike and bought some Air Jordans. I didn't go to like Foot Locker, or over here we have like, we have Foot Locker over here, I suppose, but lots of other ones as well. Sports Direct, for example. But that's the only way I can really think it works, is that if you are the main brand of the product, you can have a higher price and still get that traffic and still get sales. Otherwise, you're going to find it so difficult because we live in an age where it's cost of living crisis here in the UK. And I believe it's the same in the States, in the US. Gene, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I think everybody is watching their like purse strings a little bit tighter. They're keeping an eye on their wallet, what they spend, and things like that. So everything's going up. Wages are kind of staying the same. So everybody's a little bit more price conscious. So we live in a world now where price is everything, I think, and you can't afford to be like totally out of the park in terms of price. You have to be competitive, whether it's £5 here, $10 there, that's not going to make too much of a difference. But if you're $50, if you're £100 more expensive than somebody else, you're going to find it so difficult.
Yeah, I agree. And well, wrapping up my point, the last thing is make sure that your products are available. And that's the first thing. Your product is not going to show up. It's going to be inactive if it's out of stock, right? That's if your feed says it's out of stock, it's not going to show up on Google Shopping. So just understand, getting traction is difficult. If you have gained traction for a 2 or 3 month campaign on Google Shopping and you've seen great success, and then for only 1 week you have an out of stock button or like an out of stock set, I guess like period of time that you are waiting on inventory, you don't want to lose that traffic because it'll go inactive and then your competitors will take that up. So, what I say is make sure you can still sell things that are out of stock if you know that it's going to come back, especially if it's your best sellers. There's different apps on Shopify that can do that, but just make sure that you try to stay in stock because you won't show up on Google Shopping. So yeah, that's my portion. Ryan, you could go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much. I feel like this is a really good complimentary episode because I feel like you've like laid me up for the dunk. You've kind of gone through all like the merchant center side of things, and that's so key. That's so valid. But for me, I want to talk more about standard shopping, the campaign type specifically. And it's no word of a lie that it probably is my favorite campaign type to run because so many reasons. You've got full control over the campaign. We talked last week about Performance Max, where there's very little you can do in terms of optimization, in terms of, directing the campaign where you see it, where you want it to go. But with standard shopping, you have a lot of control over everything, and I was going to get into it later, but I might as well say it now. It's very hands-on, devices, ad schedule, locations, audiences. You can really shape that traffic once you get it, shape that data and start funneling the budget towards what's working and taking it away from what isn't working. So that's why I love standard shopping. And it just works. Even now, I mean, there was a period of probably 3 or 4 months where I wasn't really running any standard shopping campaigns, thinking that, oh, it's obsolete, it's not working anymore, Performance Max is the way to go. But no, I mean, if anything, I'm starting to turn more Performance Max campaigns off and take clients back to standard shopping because I see a lot more value to be had with that. But it's probably my favorite campaign type to run for that reason. And there's so many things that I need to kind of get into. So one of the things I was going to say is make sure that Google Merchant Center is linked up with Google Ads because otherwise you're not going to be able to advertise the products. It's the middleman between, whether you're using WooCommerce, whether you're using, I think, Squarespace, WordPress, Shopify, any of those types of, website design builder things. It's the middleman. Google Merchant Center is the middleman. So you want to make sure that it's linked up to Google Ads because what it's going to do is going to pull products from your website. It's going to hold them inside Google Merchant Center and then push them through to Google Ads. So make sure that's linked up and make sure you have conversion tracking set up before you hit go on that campaign. You want to be feeding that campaign accurate conversion data from day one. So it's really, really important that you get conversion tracking set up and in place. And I'm not talking add to carts, initiate checkout, begin checkout. That's all good to have in the background, but you really want to be focusing on purchase conversion action. That's something G mentioned, I think, last episode or a couple of episodes ago. Very, very crucial. We need to know what's working, what isn't working. We need to know what the return on ad spend is, what the value is that we're getting for each product sale and things like that. It's really key. So we need to make sure that conversion tracking is set up. Gene, any thoughts so far, or do you want to keep
you're doing
going?
good. Keep going, brother.
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think another reason why I like them, you can get them set up so fast with search campaigns, even with performance max campaigns. There's a whole time of, creating ad copy, writing ad copy, providing it with assets, that whole strenuous kind of approach. You can go in and create a standard shopping campaign and then hit publish and it's done. You don't have to write any ad copy. You don't really have to do as much in terms of a setup as you do with other campaigns. And I think that's why I like it as well, because you can be really quick with it and get really good results. So you can get them up and running pretty quick. And what I would say is you want to be segmenting that product data. So once you've got the campaign set up, go into the ad group and then you'll see it says all products. And when you hover over all products, there'll be a little pencil icon. Click on that, and then it should default to product. I think it is, or something like that. Select from the drop down item ID, and then just select all the boxes and then hit save or continue with bids or save and edit bids or something like that. But what that's going to do is it's going to itemize each individual product so you can see where you're spending the budget on what products are getting the most cost, the most impressions, the most clicks, and what products aren't really getting any impressions. And at that point, maybe after 30 days or 60 days or even 90 days, you could say, right, this product is getting all the clicks, it's getting all the impressions, it's getting all the cost. But this one, which is maybe more of a bestseller or a higher margin product for me, is getting like 5 impressions and like, £5 or $10 in cost. So we want to allocate more budget to that because it's a higher margin product. So that's why it's important to itemize it to see where your advertising budget is going to in terms of the products. So definitely do that. Um, Anything you want to add yet, co-host?
No, you're on a roll,
You want me
man.
to keep going? I'm on a
Yeah,
roll. Okay.
I think you're
I'm
killing
gonna
it.
keep chipping in just to see if you got anything to say, but I think we're all good.
That's good.
Um, so yeah, segment each product out. In terms of a bidding strategy, I like to do manual bidding. I know Gene hates manual bidding. Do you hate it, or do you just dislike
Uh,
it?
I think
It has its place.
yeah, it has its place. I think for something that's like starting out, I think manual bidding is good. But if there's data in there, I get a lot of clients that have data in there. Sometimes I just like to do max clicks, but yeah, to each their own. But I think it has its place for sure.
Cool. Well, personally for me, don't listen to Gene. He's completely wrong. I like to use manual bidding because then again, I can say I want to spend X amount on a click for this product. I want to spend X amount on a click for that product. And I can really be very detailed with the budget and say, right, I know this product is a really good seller, so let's allocate more budget to it, for example. And it just gives me that full holistic approach of where I want to spend the advertising budget. So I really like to do that. There is something that is kind of going around the houses for, I would say, other YouTube channels. I'm not going to name any names, but there's a really good low target ROAS bidding strategy out there at the moment that I've seen firsthand can work really, really well. And that just simply means set the ROAS low. So like 50%, 100%. And what it's going to do, it's going to force the Google Ads system and the campaign to overperform because it says, well, I can easily get you, a one-to-one, like 100% would be a one-to-one. So you spend £1, you get your pound back, you break even. I can easily do that. So it's obviously going to outperform, and then that's a really good way of doing something else. I've not used it personally. I've seen a demo of another account manager use it. It looks like it works really, really well. I'm still yet to test it, but it's something that is up my sleeve and waiting to run, I guess. But at the moment, I just focus on manual bidding, and it just gives me the full control that I need to spend the budget where I see fit. Um, and then that's kind of it. So what we talked about so far is, make sure that Google Merchant Center is linked up. Make sure that conversion tracking is set up inside the account. Then get the product segmented, itemized to a product level specific kind of view, so you know where the budget is going to, and then just leave it for 3 months. Let it run at least, please, at least for 30 days. Just get that data inside the account. Try not to touch it, and go from there and see what's working, see what isn't working in that time frame. Make sure you stay on top of your search terms report. Talked about last week Performance Max. Unfortunately, with Performance Max, they don't really give you the search terms report, so you don't know what you're showing up for. But with standard shopping campaigns, you have access to that. It's like a normal search campaign. You can go in, I think it's keywords, or it might be insights and reports now, I'm not sure. And then it's on the left-hand side, and it's search terms. Have a look inside there, see what people are typing in Google to find your products for, and go in and add negative keywords. Clean that traffic up so you're only showing for high quality stuff. People that have the best intent to convert, transactional based searches, not informational based, not navigational based, anything like that. We want to make sure that we're only showing up for transactional based, because in the end of the day, what's the goal? It's to sell the product. It's to get conversions, which are purchases. Gene, you want to have
Yeah, no,
anything to
that's
say on that part?
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's important. I'm sure Ryan will allude to it if he goes into query sculpting, but I think it's important to be able to qualify those search terms and be on top of it, especially if my side, if you have an automated bid strategy, it's going to go in quick. You get a lot of irrelevant things, so you have to be on top of it more so than if you were using a manual bidding strategy. So yeah, I definitely agree. Be on top of
Yeah.
search terms.
Cool. Thank you. Just backing me up there. I just felt like I needed that reaffirmation of like,
Yeah,
yeah,
got
he's
you.
right. You got me. Thank you. But thank you. You just mentioned, you kind of gave the secret away, but a couple of advanced techniques for standard shopping. One of them is query sculpting, what Gene mentioned. And that is something coined by a German advertiser, I think probably ten years ago now, maybe 20 years ago. Gosh, I think it was 2004, maybe 2014. I can't remember when. His name is, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, so he's probably not watching, but I do apologize. Martin Rotgerding, I think his name is Rotgerding, I think something like that. So hopefully I got it right there. But basically, what query sculpting is that we don't have keywords in shopping campaigns, standard shopping campaigns. We have products. So in order to counteract that, we're kind of bidding on products if you think about it. Whereas with search campaigns, we bid on keywords. What query sculpting allowed you to do is segment the data so that you say, right, this campaign is all about product specific. So that could be somebody, for example, searching for, we always like to use Air Jordan. So Nike Air Jordan 11s, men's size 10 or something like that, or 44 or whatever it might be. And what that does is that because somebody is specifically searching for like men's Nike Air Jordan size 44 or size 10 or whatever it is, that's very specific. That's such a specific search. Somebody knows exactly the shoe, the make, the model, the brand that they're looking for, even down to the size and everything. Then in theory, because they're searching for that on Google, it should lead to a sale. So we want to allocate a higher bid and more budget towards that campaign. And then another campaign we would have is like a medium campaign. So you would set it up as a high, a low, and a medium. So the high one would be, I think, I'm getting confused now. I think that would be catch all. But I'm going to get into this. This is where it gets tricky. So you may need to do your research on this, and this is why it's advanced. But I'm just going to go straight into brands, because if somebody's looking for a brand, if it's somebody's looking for Adidas shoes or Nike shoes or New Balance, then they're looking to make a purchase of a New Balance, a Nike, or an Adidas trainer or shoe. They're not really kind of considering Reebok or any of the other competitors out there. They want one of those brands. So that's why you have another campaign that targets the brand specifically. And then in the background, you would have a catch-all campaign, which you don't have to monitor too much. You just kind of push that out there, and that just captures every other search. But there's so many, like, what do I call it? Like different avenues to go down with this, because you have to create certain negative keyword lists Of course, you don't want the brand searches showing in the catch-all or the product specific. You don't want product specific showing in the brand or the catch-all. So you have to create like 3 negative keyword lists. There's different things that you can do with the bids as well. You want obviously the catch-all campaign to have the highest bid because obviously that's where a lot of the searches are generally going to happen. You want the brand to have like a middle kind of bid, and then the product specific to have a lower bid. Or it could be vice versa. I always forget. And then in the settings, in the campaign settings, this is where you can set the priority: high, medium, and low. So again, I'm not doing it justice. You really do need to go out and probably search on YouTube for Martin Rotgerding and have a look at his video, how he breaks it down. It's so fascinating, so interesting. I've used this kind of structure many times. I know big award-winning agencies here in the UK use this kind of structure and strategy in many high-ticket accounts, so it does work. But yeah, there's a lot to it, and that's why it's very advanced. Gene, have you ever used query sculpting? I mean, what's your experience with it?
Not really this perspective of like a medium, high, low. But I've definitely tried to get the most long tail keyword, especially in the beginning. I think that's really important. When you're sculpting the query, sometimes you can be a little bit too aggressive with your negative keywords, and I'll detract you from the actual end result query that you want. So sometimes I would leave some of the broader terms, but it still has the term that I want in that long tail keyword in there. So that's that progressive query sculpting, process. Could take a little bit, but yeah, I mean, not this guy's perspective, but in a sense, yeah, I've used
Yeah.
query sculpting.
That's cool. That's cool. But
Yeah.
definitely, if it's something that you guys are interested in, take a look at Martin Rotgerding on YouTube. So that's Rottgerding, and he's really, really good. So take a look at that. Another one that I like to do, this is my go-to, is high margin versus low margin. I mentioned this in the Performance Max video. I always like to do that one because it makes sense from a business owner's perspective. We want to spend more budget, allocate more ad spend towards the higher margin products that are going to give you more profit in the long term than you do with the low margin stuff. Or in some cases, a best sellers versus low performers. There might be, a handful, 5, 10, 15, 20 products in the standard shopping campaign that are clear winners, that are obviously generating 80%, if not 90% of the conversions. That's great. It's taking up all the budget, all the cost. That's fantastic. But what about all the other, say, 50, 60, 70, 80 products in the background that have only got like 1 or 2 or 3 impressions and maybe a couple of clicks, if that? Well, because we want to focus more budget towards what's working on the best sellers, we also want to give the others a chance. And I always like to say the cream rises to the top. So by doing a best sellers versus low performers or a testing campaign, whatever you want to call it, you keep the focus on what's converting well in the foreground. So you keep 80% of the budget on the best sellers campaign. That's giving you the return. That's giving you the conversion value. It's giving you the sales. In the background, just allocate a 20% budget, something like that, and just let the new winning products rise to the top. And then you can do one of two things: either transfer that product into the new bestsellers campaign that you've got, or keep it in there and just build it up. It has that historic conversion data. Just leave it. And then over time, you might say, well, now we've got a bestsellers campaign. We've got another bestsellers campaign. So let's pull out some more products and create another testing campaign. Over time, you might end up with 3, 4, or 5 campaigns with products that are just giving you consistent sales on a monthly basis. So it's just allocating budget towards what's working and then reserving some of that budget for testing purposes. And that is something that I like to do, but not as much as the high margin, low margin. That's usually my go-to, and that works really, really well. And then there's a couple of other advanced kind of strategies that, segmentations when it comes to standard shopping campaigns that I don't really do, but I've seen people do. Product category. So Gene was kind of talking about it before a little bit, but let's say you've got t-shirts, you've got hoodies, you've got trousers. It might be an idea to have individual campaigns for individual product categories rather than grouping them all together. And then you can allocate based on seasonality. For example, many moons ago, I managed a workwear client, and he had like winter jackets and winter vests and things like that. And obviously in the summer he doesn't really want to push those as much, but in the summer shorts and things like that and t-shirts he really wants to push. So one of the things we did was segment by product category, and then we can be more dynamic with the budgets. Send boost the budget in the summer for the shorts, the t-shirts, those kind of things, the trainers, but in the winter focus more on the heavy coats and the boots and things like that. So that could be something as well that might work for you, especially if you're in the retail niches, in the clothes niche and things like that. And then the final one that I see very rarely, but I have seen and come across, is by location or device. So you might say, well, we've captured the US market, now let's try Europe, or let's try Canada, or New Zealand, or Australia, wherever you want to try. What I would say there is have one campaign specific to your main location. So that could be the UK or the US. And then if you want to enter a new market, create a new standard shopping campaign specifically targeting that location, whether it is the UK or whether it is, Spain or France or Germany or EU, or even if it's somewhere like Australia and New Zealand. That could be one split that you might want to do. And then you can gradually increase that if you start seeing it working. The other would be device segmentation. I've seen this happen as well. Obviously, you have with standard shopping campaigns the ability to increase the bids for different devices. So, mobile, tablet, computer. The other way, which you can do, is you can, have a specific shopping campaign for computers, a specific shopping campaign for mobiles, and then a specific shopping campaign for tablets. I don't really tend to do that, and I've seen it probably once in a blue moon as well. The problem with tablets is it's just not the main way people search for products and services online these days. It's mostly mobile first and then laptops. So there's always that. Do you really need a tablet campaign? I'm not really sure, but it just gives you another approach to take. You want to potentially allocate more budget towards mobile traffic because it works, and then you want to maybe half that for computer traffic because, well, we still want a presence there, but it's not as profitable as mobile phones. So there's just a few advanced strategies there for you to kind of mull over and think about if you're interested. But definitely my favorite high margin, low margin bestsellers testing campaign. And I've used query sculpting before, but yeah, check those out if you're interested. And always feel free to email me and Gene at the PPC Cave at gmail.com if you've got any questions on those. Gene, any thoughts?
No, that's it. And I know this was another packed episode, but we'll continue to provide y'all the value. And each week we release on Mondays, 12 a.m. Mountain Time. I don't know when that is for you, but we're on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we'll be doing more of this. So if there's nothing else, I hope everyone has a good one. We'll talk to y'all next time.